The bus rattled down the road, filled with laughter, chatter, and the occasional burst of music from someone's phone. But in the middle rows, where the sun slanted through dirty windows, a girl sat quietly with her head down, her hands clutching the straps of her backpack like they were the only thing keeping her grounded. Her name was Emma. She wasn't the type to speak up in class or raise her voice when teased. She was the type who would rather disappear than fight back. But that morning was different. That morning, 3 boys had noticed her sitting alone. They didn't see a quiet, kind-hearted girl, they saw a target. "Hey, mute girl," one of them sneered, sliding into the seat beside her uninvited. His friend leaned over the seat in front, grinning, while the third one loomed behind, blocking any chance of escape. Emma stiffened, her pulse quickening, but she kept her eyes down, hoping they'd get bored. They didn't. The boy beside her grabbed the strap of her backpack and yanked it hard, nearly pulling her off her seat. "What's in here?" "Bricks. No wonder you're always hunched like a little turtle." The others laughed cruelly, egging him on. Emma's throat tightened. She wanted to shout, to tell them to stop, but her voice, like always, froze. Then it happened. The boy behind her reached forward, his hand wrapping suddenly around the back of her neck. He squeezed, not hard enough to choke her, but enough to make her flinch in fear. The laughter grew louder as he leaned in close. "What are you gonna do, huh? Cry?" What none of them realized was that just a few rows away, a man sat quietly, his face unreadable, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. He had boarded the bus like any other parent, just another face in the crowd. But this was no ordinary father. This was Emma's dad, David, a veteran SWAT officer who had seen the worst of humanity. He had spent his life breaking down doors, pulling victims out of danger, and staring down men who thought they could get away with violence. And now, he was watching 3 boys turn that same violence on his daughter. David's knuckles tightened on the edge of the seat. Every instinct in him screamed to act immediately, to pull them off her with the same force he used in raids. But he stopped himself. This wasn't a crime scene, it was his daughter's world. He wanted to protect her, yes, but he also wanted her to find her own strength. Still, when he saw that boy's hand on her neck, the line was crossed. He stood up slowly, deliberately. The bus seemed to shrink as his tall frame cast a shadow over the row. The laughter faltered. The boy holding Emma's neck looked up, and froze. David's expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp as steel. "Take your hand off my daughter," he said, his voice low and commanding. The bus went silent. The other kids stared, wide-eyed, as the bully shifted nervously. The boy let go immediately, his cocky smirk dissolving. "We were just joking," he stammered, his bravado. The bus screeched to a halt at the next stop, and more kids piled in, the noise picking back up. But the atmosphere had shifted. Everyone had seen the way Emma's dad confronted those bullies, and whispers were already spreading. The bullies slouched in their seats, embarrassed, trying to act like nothing had happened. But their red faces told another story. For the first time, their laughter had no power, it sounded hollow, forced. And Emma sat still, her heart pounding, but her father's words echoing in her head, "You're stronger than you think." When they reached the school, Emma hesitated at the steps. Usually, she would wait until most of the kids left so she could walk in unnoticed. But this time, her dad stepped off with her, his hand steady on her shoulder. Heads turned. Students whispered. For Emma, it was terrifying to be the center of attention. But something about her dad's calm presence gave her courage she didn't know she had. "Remember," he murmured as they walked together, "courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to stand tall even when fear is screaming in your ear." Emma didn't say anything, but she held her chin a little higher. The day dragged on, and whispers followed her everywhere. Some kids looked at her with sympathy, others with newfound respect. A few even smiled at her, which had never happened before. But the bullies weren't done. At lunch, the same 3 boys cornered her near the vending machines. Their pride had been bruised in front of everyone, and now they wanted revenge. "You think you're special because your dad scared us," one of them hissed. "Wait till he's not around." Emma froze, her tray shaking in her hands. Normally, she would shrink, maybe cry quietly later. But today, something inside her was different. She remembered her father's words, the way his presence had silenced an entire bus. She took a deep breath, lifted her eyes, and spoke. "You should be embarrassed," she said softly, but firmly. "Not for what my dad did, for what you did. Picking on someone quiet doesn't make you strong. It makes you weak." The boys blinked. They weren't expecting her to talk back. She felt her legs trembling, but she didn't back down. She walked past them, her heart hammering, but her voice had been heard. Across the cafeteria, a group of girls who had always ignored her caught the moment. One of them called out, "Hey, Emma. Come sit with us." It was small, but it mattered. That night at home, Emma sat at the kitchen table with her dad. She told him about standing up for herself, her voice shaking at first but steady by the end. David listened quietly, pride shining in his eyes. "You see," he said gently. "The moment you used your voice, you took back your power. That's something no one can take from you, not even bullies." Emma smiled faintly, but her eyes brimmed with tears. For so long, she had believed her silence was weakness. Now, she understood it could be her strength, if she chose.